Hey everyone, and welcome to Blossom in Business, the podcast for all things beauty, business, mindset, and more. My name is Monique, and I am the owner of Royal Blossom Beauty, a beauty business based in Melbourne, Australia. I offer nail, lash, and brow services as well as nail and business education. I really hope you enjoy this episode, and let's get into it. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. By the time you guys are watching this, it will be June, which is so crazy. The year has just flown. But I have some really exciting announcements for this month. So first of all, June is all things pricing. I know that you guys have wanted pricing related episodes because it's one of the most controversial topics in the nail industry and just even in beauty as a whole. And I told you guys that pricing would be coming. I just wanted to really make sure it was perfect and that I could cover as much as possible in the episodes that I have. So all June long is going to be pricing related, financial related, all of that. I also thought that I'd wait until June to film them as well because it's almost new financial year. If you are going to make any changes to your pricing, it's the perfect time to do it into the new financial year. So June was just perfect. So again, this month, all financials, pricing, all of that. But this episode in particular, I really wanted to focus on the mindset behind pricing and all of the financial stuff rather than how to calculate your pricing and all of that. That's going to be a whole separate episode. But I feel like you need to get in the right mindset where you feel like you can increase your prices and get over those fears, because without that, you're not going to be able to actually make the changes to your pricing in your business. I also want to really go over charging your worth and things like that. So if you're someone that fears increasing your prices, maybe you're worried that clients are going to leave, that you're going to have no bookings, or maybe that you're not deserving of increasing your prices, this is the episode for you. I also have another really exciting episode planned for this month. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be out before this, after this, it could even be pushed to next month, who knows, but I do have my first ever guest speaker planned, which is super exciting. I always plan to have guest speakers on the podcast all along, but I did really want to set a foundation for the podcast first with a bunch of my solo episodes, just to kind of introduce you guys to the podcast before I bring in a bunch of people. But we do have the first ever guest speaker planned. Don't know when the episode's coming out. We're hoping for this month, but it is going to be very exciting as well. Now let's get into the episode. So if you're in the nail industry, you know how undervalued we are as nail technicians. Like literally any other beauty service, whether it's massages, hair, lash extensions, brow laminations, literally anything, makeup even, they can charge a whole lot more than what we do. Now, this is based on pricing that I've seen, I've experienced, people around me have experienced. I know that pricing can vary so much within the beauty industry. Literally, you can have $40 sets of nails, you can have $140, $200 sets of nails. Pricing is very broad. So when I talk about pricing, I'm really just going to focus on kind of the averages that I've seen, especially for good quality services, because it can differ business to business. But makeup, for example, typically it's about $100 to $150 for about an hour's work. And as with any service, there's obviously work that goes on behind the scenes before and after the appointment and all the stuff that leads up to the appointment, such as the marketing and all of that. There's a setup, there's a cleaning, all of that. But in this case, I'm just talking about the actual service duration. So basically makeup, $100, $150 for about an hour service, and the results last a day. Lash extensions, they take about 2 hours. They do cost anywhere between $100 to $250. Again, you might find lower, might find higher. Every business is so different, but that's kind of the average that I've seen for a good quality set of lash extensions. And technically lash extensions, they could last literally 6+ weeks, but they're not going to look very good at that point. So you do need refills, typically 2 to 3 weeks later, which will be another $80 to $130 for most technicians. Now, if you're not familiar with the price of nails, maybe you're not a nail tech, maybe you're a client, maybe whatever reason, you're not really familiar with kind of the average rate for nails these days, your non-standard lower quality salons are charging anywhere between 40 to, I would say, somewhere about that 70, 80 range now. And that would be classed as expensive for that kind of salon. But for most higher quality services, the base price, I would say, would be about $70 to $80, but it can go up to $200. I find the maximum I see for a plain color is about $150. Again, there's a big range of pricing out there. And most nails do take about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So if you compare back to makeup, lash extensions, things like that, the rate that people expect nails to be, which is usually about that $60, $70 maximum price range, is a lot less for the time that it takes compared to other services out there. Again, your makeup, massages, things like that. Now you may be wondering, how can these other beauticians charge so much more for their services than nail technicians. Now, if you're new here, let me just preface that I'm not nail biased. I offer nails, lashes, and brows in my salon, and because of this, I can literally see how much it costs to operate all 3 services. And I can also see the difference in what people value. So the reason why lash techs, brow techs, hairdressers, laser clinics, facialists, makeup, literally any other beauty service, the reason why people pay so much more and those businesses can get away with charging more, not to say that they shouldn't be charging those amounts, but they can physically charge that and have little to no issues, is because it's a way that clients value that service. Clients value these services so highly, and clients will always spend on what they value. Now, everyone does value things quite differently, so we'll go into that a little bit later, but I feel like there's this stigma for so long that nails need to be cheap. And that's cheap to me as a technician that's seen the overheads and seen all the expenses associated. But that's like the standard for a lot of clients out there. Not all, but a lot. They do expect $40, $50, $60, $70, even $80 sets. Some might be like, okay, that's fair enough. It's a bit high, but it's fair enough. There's this stigma that nails need to be cheaper than like lash extensions. They need to be cheaper than makeup. They need to be cheaper than a massage. Cheaper than things that people pay more for but take less time. This is simply because some, not all, some clients, many clients, I would say, like out of the general public, value nails a lot lower than other services. And this necessarily isn't their fault. There is a lot of reason why people value nails so low. And one of those reasons is to do with how low the prices have been. They've literally barely moved, especially like those non-standard salon pricings. Even with the cost of living, they've barely changed. Like if you think of literally everything else in the world, whether it's groceries, petrol, a lot of things have like doubled, maybe more. But if nails were to double, people would be like, what the hell is this? Like, this is crazy. That's why a lot of home-based or independent salons and luxury salons do get a lot of criticism for what seems to be higher pricing, when in reality, it's just gone up because the cost of living has gone up, the cost of supplies has gone up. There's so many factors. I could go on forever. Every client values things so different. So I can sit here and say that clients don't want to pay $100 for nails, but there are so many clients that do. They see the value in that. There are some that see the value in $150, $200 nails, but some won't want to spend more than $50, and that's because everyone values everything so differently. I had this client in my salon at one point, and she came to me, and for reference, my pricing is on the higher side. Not high to the point where I'm profiting like crazy, but high where it needs to be to cover my expenses for the time that I take. I'm a little bit more of a longer, detailed manicure person. So because I have longer service times, my pricing needs to reflect the service times. So compared to a non-standard salon, I might be deemed as very expensive, but compared to the vast majority of independent salons that are starting to slowly charge what they need to charge, I'm probably just a tiny bit more expensive, or actually on par with what I need to be charging. So in no way is my pricing like super profitable. Sometimes, depending on my schedule and things like that, it might even just be like barely cutting it. As with most of my clients, they see the value in my services. Even though they don't directly see the expenses I have to pay for, they don't always see all of that. They see the value because they value getting a manicure done, a high quality manicure, sterilized tools, all of that so highly that they will pay what I charge for nails. So where I'm going with this is I had this nail client in, and obviously if they book with me, they see the value. Like they're not going to pay over $100 for nails if they don't value nails so highly, and in particular value my nails so highly. Now I had this client book in, no mention about my pricing, but she talked about how she got a facial done, and she was complaining that her facial was $80. Now, if you don't know the average price of a facial, I don't work in skin, so I can't confirm the overheads and things like that. I know they're probably very pricey, but the average price for a facial would be $100 to $200 for, depending on the service, there's so many different treatments and machines and products out there. I would say roughly 45 minutes to an hour, but she was complaining about $80 pricing for a facial, which again, the average is at least $100, $150, maybe even $200 depending on what you're getting done. So she doesn't value facials enough because the $80 facial, which is cheap for a facial, was too expensive. But she does value nails more highly because over $100 for nails was absolutely worth it. So in this situation, she was not valuing facials anywhere near as much as she values a manicure. And the reason why I wanted to mention this client is to prove that not every client has the same values. While I am going to be talking a lot about how nails are undervalued, there are still people that do value nails very highly compared to other services. But in most cases, it is nails that is often the most undervalued service. And I've heard so many business coaches say, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I talk to a lot of people, one of their top tips is actually to not do nails at all. If you charge what clients expect you to charge based on what they're used to, based on what the norm is, nails is actually one of the least profitable beauty services there is. And that's not to say that nails is not profitable. Nails is not profitable if you don't charge what you need to. Any business, whether it's beauty, literally any business out there, it absolutely can be profitable if you're charging what you need to. But any business can also not be profitable if you're not charging what you need to. So there is this stigma that nail techs get paid all, basically. And this is purely because a lot of nail techs don't actually charge what they need to. So if you charge for your nail services what clients expect, what clients are used to, what some other salons out there charge, your business probably isn't going to be the most financially sustainable. So as I said, a lot of business coaches actually recommend that people don't do nails. If you went to a business coach and your goal was to have a profitable beauty salon, you weren't too fussed on the services, but your goal was a profitable beauty salon, most would actually tell you don't bother with nails because they're not profitable. And this is where I disagree, because I feel like this all comes down to how you price yourself. If you don't know your numbers and you're just pricing based on what everyone else is charging, there is a good chance, especially with how cheap some of the salons out there are, there's a good chance that you're not going to profit at all, and you may not even be able to have a livable wage. And I feel like that's why so many people leave the nail industry, is because they undercharge. They think it's just money, when in reality, their pricing doesn't match up to what they need to earn to cover their expenses and to actually pay a livable wage. So it's not that nails is not profitable, it's just not profitable when you're not pricing correctly. But in reality, this expectation where clients expect nails to be like $50 is kind of our fault. Not entirely, I would say more, the nail techs that came before us, because no one's done anything about it. We've all just been too scared, because we can complain and complain about how the general public undervalues nails so much more than other beauty services. The fact that people value a $150 makeup application that they wear for a day compared to nails that last a month. The fact that people value a $150 facial appointment that takes 45 minutes more than a 2-hour nail appointment. We could complain about the fact that the price of nails has barely changed at all, while everything around us has skyrocketed. Our supplies have gone up, our overheads have increased, the cost of living is higher, yet somehow, if we charge based on what our numbers tell us to, we're too expensive. But complaining does nothing. Instead, we need to understand why this is the case. Why are we so undervalued compared to other services out there? Why are we automatically called rip-offs if we charge more than what people are used to? It comes down to values and expectations. People expect to pay more than $100 for makeup, lashes, facials, because that's the standard that those industries have set. The reason why there are so many people who don't value nails is because there are so many non-standard salons that charge next to nothing. They're cutting so many corners so it becomes financially feasible for them to be able to charge low prices. And because people view that as normal, anything above that is automatically expensive. But there's a huge difference between expensive and costly. As nail techs, if we want the perception of how nails are valued to change, we have to change it together. When quality nail techs start to raise their prices, not out of greed, but out of necessity, that's when the base price of nails, the base value of nails, becomes higher. Not to raise our prices for the sake of it, but to raise them based on our numbers. And in order to become the nail tech that is so highly valued that these higher prices are now seen as the norm and absolutely worth it, is to continue growing, continue improving, upskilling, buying good quality products, maintaining high hygiene standards, and creating a high quality client experience. Because people aren't going to pay more just because, they need to pay more because you're worth it. So instead of complaining about being undervalued, we need to be the nail techs that set the standard. The ones that raise the bar so high that charging appropriately becomes the norm. That is how the industry changes, and it starts with us. You can make a livable wage from doing nails, given that you cover your overheads. You can make good money from doing nails, given that you price for profit. We can become more valued for the amazing work that we do. But that starts with increasing our pricing to where it actually needs to be. Again, not just because, not just for the sake of it, but because the prices that a lot of nail techs are actually charging are not financially sustainable. Now, I know that raising your prices can be so daunting. You don't want to seem expensive or a ripoff, but here's the thing that you need to understand. Some things are expensive and some things are just costly. If you were doing nails and they were so low quality, but you were charging really high prices, that's expensive because the value and the pricing does not align. But if you're providing a good quality service and your pricing incorporates your overheads, it just so happens to be out of maybe the client's price range, that's not expensive, that's costly because you're charging to cover your overheads. You're not just charging with a high profit margin, way above the value that you provide. If you charged enough to cover your overheads, enough for a livable wage, ideally 30% profit, paid all the taxes, all of that, and your pricing is still high, it's just costly. It's not expensive. It's literally just costly because it costs you that much to have the service. And if you're not a nail tech or you're not in the beauty industry or any sort of business industry, you may be wondering, why is profit included? Why do business owners have to take a cut of profit? And we could go into a conversation about how your pricing should incorporate all the work you do outside of the actual clients. But if you're someone that's not paying yourself for all your admin, all of the other things that you do, the cleaning, all of that, then that is where the profit will go. It's not always necessarily profit straight into our pocket where we're investing into our business and making money and getting rich or whatever. Sometimes that profit is literally just used to cover the time outside the services, responding to your inquiries, cleaning the tools after you've had your manicure done. I personally think all of those things that you do outside of clients should still be incorporated into the service price. But if that's not the case, then that is where your profit is going. So it's not necessarily profit at the end of the day. It's literally just paying off the other work that you had to do to get that client in the door and keep them. So if you don't have a business and you just want to be more educated, or you have a business and you had no idea that you actually have to include profit in your pricing, ideally 30%. This is literally why. Because ideally, it is a business at the end of the day. Ideally, we should have some sort of investment that we reap the rewards from. That profit doesn't always come back to us to use on holidays and fancy cars. It can be reinvested back into the business or invested here, there, anywhere. Like we can literally do whatever we want. But sometimes it is literally just used to cover all the other things that led up to taking care of that client and giving the good quality service. And I feel like working profit into your pricing is also really good as a backup, because sometimes clients are late and a service that would take an hour now takes an hour and a half, and you need to be paid for that hour and a half. So I feel like having that profit is a good safety net to have. Now let's go back to that client I told you about, the one that paid for my nail prices but thought an $80 facial was too expensive. Now $80 is pretty cheap for a facial. Now this isn't only based on how I value a facial personally, but also based on the prices I looked at before making this podcast, because facials, I will say, most of them are $100, $150, maybe $200, depends what you get. But I find like a basic facial, like a cleanse, maybe a peel, something like that. I don't know much about facials. You're looking at about $100, $120, maybe even $150. That's what a lot of these clinics charge, and that's because that's what people value them at. But this client just didn't value it that much, and that's fine. Everyone has their own value of a facial or nails or anything. So she saw the value in my $120 nails or whatever she got done. She didn't see the value in the $80 facial, but the handbag she brought to her appointment was at least $500 to $1,000. Now handbags do last a long time, a lot longer than most beauty services out there, so we'll give her that. But handbags, that's more of a broader kind of topic that we could discuss. Like handbags can range from $5 to $50,000. Like they're huge range of pricing. But that just goes to show that people value things so differently. There would be people that would value a facial at $300, but not want to spend more than $100 on a handbag. Like you can have clients that value beauty as a whole so highly, but they don't spend a lot on fashion and things like that. Or clients that value fashion and designer so much, or maybe are on really high incomes, or for whatever reason, they splurge on other things. But to them, over $50 for a set of nails is expensive. Everyone's value is so different. Value is completely individual. And we shouldn't hate on people for having different values, because everyone's life is different. Like everyone values things different. There's nothing wrong with that. But the reason for this podcast and why I wanted to talk about the value of nails is simply because a lot of nail techs undercharge because they feel like they need to match what people value nails to be. And that would be all well and dandy if the way that people valued nails would actually cover our overheads. But in this case, they don't. In this case, a good majority of the general public do undervalue nails. They value them at like $50. Even if it takes 2 hours, 3 hours, I don't care. $50, like that's the standard, I guess. So in this case, the way people value nails actually does matter, because it's making so many businesses not financially sustainable. So not only is the value or like the amount that clients are willing to pay for a set of nails so different, but also what each technician needs to charge is going to be so different. Because you can compare a technician that charges $50 and a technician that charges $100, and they seem to be providing the same service, they seem to be the same quality, but you don't see what's behind that manicure. You don't see all the overheads. Maybe you don't look at how long the sets actually take in comparison. Because the mistake that a lot of nail techs make is they actually price their work based on what people around them are charging, based on what other nail techs are charging. But that doesn't always work. Like, yes, it can give you a good guide for market research as to what people value. That doesn't mean that that pricing is going to work well for your business. And the belief that a lot of clients have is that if a nail tech charges above what they used to, or above what this other nail technician charges, that they must be expensive and that they're a ripoff and they're a scam. But this isn't the case because everyone's business is so different. There are so many factors that go into business pricing that I could literally be here all day. But I'll try and mention a few that I feel like are the biggest differences in pricing. So first factor we want to consider is career type. Now, this is no shade to anyone. Everyone's life is different. Some people work full-time, part-time, casual. Some people have other jobs and do nails on the side. Some people have a home salon. Some people work in another person's salon. Some people have whatever. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's goals are different. Everyone's financials are going to be different. But realistically, there are some people out there that aren't the main breadwinner in their household. They're not bringing in the money. Maybe they bring in money that contributes to bills, but maybe they're not the main income earner in their household because they don't need to be, or for whatever reason they're not. And that's completely fine. Like, if you have someone in your household that's making a lot more money than you and you can get away with working less or earning less, good for you. That's great. There are just some people that don't need to earn much money. Maybe they have a partner, like a husband or a wife or whoever, that brings in most of the money that supports them as a family. That their nail services, they're just pocket money. They're just like a little bit extra, maybe a bit of extra support, things like that. Maybe this client could be fairly young. Maybe they live at home with their parents. Maybe they don't need a lot of money because they're not paying rent. They're not paying for other things. Maybe there's a person that doesn't pay a mortgage. Maybe they're living in a house that's already paid off. Maybe someone doesn't have kids. Maybe they don't travel. Maybe they don't do this, that, the other. You got your tax obligations as well. So maybe they're earning less than $75,000 a year that they don't need to pay GST. So that's a whole nother expense they don't need to pay for. We could also talk about the rent of a commercial space. Obviously, someone that's home-based isn't going to have that same overhead. They can still have a lot of overheads, but they're not going to have the rent of the actual commercial space. Some people aren't even running legit businesses. Some people don't pay the council registration. Some people literally just do cash in hand or not paying their taxes, not like a legit business kind of thing, where they don't really have to worry about charging certain pricing because they're not running as a business. They're just doing it as a hobby where they get pocket money. Some people can genuinely live off 50 grand a year. Some need 100 grand a year. Everyone's life is so different. So how much a person needs to earn is going to be so different. Maybe they have a full-time job that they work during the week and just do nails on the weekend. So they already have financial stability from the full-time job, but the nails is just extra. So if they're undercharging, it doesn't really affect them that much. They don't need to worry about earning X amount of money simply because they don't need it. They've already got that stability. That's why we can't just compare two different nail techs because they're in completely different lives. With the current cost of living, if you're someone that's doing nails full-time, beauty full-time, like myself, and you have goals such as traveling, buying a house, all of those things, having kids, having a wedding, all of that, you need money. I'm going to be honest, you need money at the end of the day. So of course you can't earn all. Of course you can't earn minimum wage. So at the end of the day, you can't compare pricing with other nail techs because it's going to be completely different. Like expenses is a whole nother thing. Like this is literally just based on life, like their personal life, their personal circumstances. Overheads and expenses, that's a whole nother thing. So even just based on career alone, there can be a huge differentiation. Some nail techs can charge $50 for 2 hours because they just want a little bit of pocket money. Maybe their expenses are really low and they just want a little bit of extra money. Again, maybe someone else brings in all the money for their family and whatever they earn is just a little extra security. Things like that. Like everyone is so different. But there are going to be some nail techs that maybe they live on their own. Maybe they have to afford the mortgage, the bills, literally everything all by themselves. So they need a wage that's going to reflect that. So we can't compare our pricing to other nail technicians. The only time I would look at a price of another nail tech is purely just on market research, just to see what the vibes are, see what people are paying. But I wouldn't be basing your prices off what they charge. Like even before this episode, I went and had a look at the different pricing out there, and it is such a big difference between different nail techs. You see some charging 50, some charging 150 for a plain color. It varies so much, and there are so many reasons why they vary. But a lot of clients don't actually understand this. They just think the price difference is just greed. They think the people charging over $100 for nails must be rich. I wish I was rich. I'll be really honest. If I was rich, I'd probably be living my best life. There probably wouldn't even be a podcast. I'd just be like somewhere like off the grid. But charging high prices doesn't mean that your business is profitable, because these prices are only deemed as high based on what the clients value them to be. You actually need to be pricing based on your numbers, not about how your clients value it, because the right clients for your business are the ones that are going to value the price that you've set based on your overheads and all of that. So I want to go into the value and expenses of two different salons. Just to compare and contrast, you can really see the difference. So we've already gone into career, but this is more the overheads and all of that. So for example, we're going to compare my home salon to a commercial non-standard salon. Now, if you'd never heard the term non-standard salon, this is basically a salon that provides shockingly low quality services, poor hygiene standards, rushes clients in and out, but they charge very cheap prices and they're usually very convenient. You can walk in, they're usually in shopping centers or just on the street and things like that. Now, not every shopping center salon is bad. Just want to preface, not every commercial space salon is bad. There's so many amazing luxury salons out there. Not every salon that is not home-based or not one nail tech is bad. But I wanted to compare your typical non-standard salon, not bringing race into this, because I hate when people just categorize a whole group of nail techs based on a race. This is purely about these salons that we all know about that are not operating with high quality services, high quality hygiene. So let's go over the differences. So the leverage that they have over a salon like mine is that they pay for a commercial space. I don't pay for a commercial space. So in that case, their pricing needs to incorporate their rent. But then we can establish what I offer that they don't. Why my clients see value in coming to me over them. So I've got a full list. So if I'm looking at my phone, that is exactly why. So this applies to my salon, but if you're a good quality nail tech that cleans their tools, that buys good quality products, that's well educated, then this is going to apply to you as well. Again, not on every single shopping center salon, but just the ones that are known for rushed, unhygienic, unsafe services. So another thing that we can compare is, unlike these salons, my services are not rushed. Let me tell you guys, if you are rushing in order to make your pricing worth it, because you're charging so little, your clients are going to see the difference, not only in the way that you're working, but also the results. If you have to rush because you're charging so little, that's the first sign that your charging needs to be increased. So I don't rush my services. I don't put any clients in a position where I'm on a time crunch or anything like that. My timings are actually pretty generous. And because of that, that's why I have to charge what I charge. I would say I spend about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes on most clients. I tend to just allow an hour and 45 minutes just in case. I do get the rare client that I can finish in an hour for repeat service, including removal and everything. But I get some clients that it takes me the full hour and 45 minutes. Everyone's skin is different. Some clients might have already ripped off their nails. I don't have to remove anything. Some people have nails that need correcting, repairs, all of that. Some might be 10 minutes late. There are so many factors. So for me, and also a top tip for you guys, have generous timing because you never know when you're going to need it. But your pricing has to consider the time that you block off for that client. So an hour and 45 minutes, let's round it to 2 hours just to make the maths a bit easier. So most of those non-standard salons, typically about 45 minutes to an hour. So my timings compared to their timing is double. Therefore, what I have to charge based on time is going to be double. And there are a lot more factors based on how much you should be paying yourself. Think about qualifications, think about experience, think about all of that. Those are also contributing factors, but just talking about time, based on time alone, that's already got to be doubled. So next factor we have is hygiene. So even if you're just doing the bare minimum for whatever's required by your state, whether it's cleaning and disinfecting or cleaning, disinfecting, sterilizing, it's already significantly better than a lot of non-standard salons out there that are reusing files and all of that. So hence why the pricing should be higher. But if you are going above and beyond, I don't need an autoclave in my salon, I don't need to sterilize my tools, but I choose to, that is even more reason to charge more. Not only because the service is now higher value, because it's more hygienic, but also the expenses associated. My autoclave was $3,500. I don't even think that was including shipping. And I pay at least $500 a year to reservice and validate it. Not only is the value increased, so the price should be higher, but the expenses are higher. So the price, again, has to be higher. And that's just the base price of the autoclave itself. We also have the pouches, the distilled water, the receipt rolls, the time it takes me to clean, disinfect, sterilize my tools. So we also have the cost of products. So let's use files as an example. Files are one per client. Again, a lot of these salons reuse the file as much as they can. So they could probably get 20 clients and then they'd probably chuck it out because it's probably dull, but they're not using a fresh file per client. Whereas if you look at a more hygienic salon that is using one file per client, for that same 20 clients, it is 20 times the cost. So the expenses alone for just the nail file, there's so many things we use during a manicure, but just the nail file is 20 times the amount. We also have the quality of the products like gels and stuff themselves. Now, of course, higher price doesn't always mean higher quality and vice versa, But in most cases, higher quality products tend to cost more. And if you're not in the nail industry, you may not know this, but a lot of these non-standard salons, obviously they do use cheaper, lower quality products, but a lot of them actually use an acrylic monomer that contains MMA, which is actually illegal in other places in the world. But because Australia is so unregulated and they don't actually care, they don't monitor it, they don't ban it, they don't do anything. Therefore, a lot of these salons do get away with using very harsh chemicals that are actually very harmful. Like there's a reason that they're banned in other places in the world. So they use cheaper products in order to either profit more or keep their prices very low. Compared to a salon with a technician that actually looks into the ingredients of their products, they look into the lamps they use, all of those things, there's a big difference. We also have the quality of the manicure itself. So I personally offer a Russian manicure. That's something that I prefer to do. I feel like it looks nice, but it also takes extra time. So not only does the comparison of how it looks, big difference, but also, again, back to timing, it takes extra time and that time needs to be accounted for. Me personally, I love to do a nice close color application without getting anything on the skin, but other salons will either get it too far away that it looks very grown out, apply it messily, or they'll apply it really close, but it's too close because it's touching and it's everywhere all over the skin. And not only does it not look cute, it's also a safety hazard. So there's not only the color application, but there's also like the structure and things like that. No one wants nails that are going to break, so there needs to be proper structure to support the nail. You want structure so it doesn't break, but you don't want thick and bulky nails. Within quality, we also have retention. My clients usually go 4 to 5 weeks. Normally recommend 3 to 4, but some usually do stretch it to 5, sometimes even 6, no issues. Whereas I see people complaining all the time. They go to some other salons out there and they're like, I've lost a nail, it popped off, it broke, whatever reason, it didn't last. So quality, whether it's because of the color, the structure, the retention, whatever, when it's good quality, the price is higher. And then we have to consider customer experience. So as a customer of many different beauty services out there, the customer experience is so important. So back to rushing, they don't want to feel rushed. But some salons out there, you can't talk to them. Like for me, I'll match my client's energy. If I have a chatty client, I'll be chatty back. If I have a client that's just sitting there and just, relaxing or, whatever, I'll just let them be, check in for the nail purposes, and that's about it. Some salons, you genuinely cannot talk to them, or if you try to, they won't talk back. There's also things to consider like parking, whether or not there's a bathroom, whether or not the appointment's one-on-one. Is it going to be a lot of other people in the salon? Or even if it is a salon where there are other people around, are you going to have one nail tech working on you or are you going to have like 5? Another factor is lack of care. Some salons out there intentionally damage your nails to be faster. On the other hand, you have technicians that take a little bit longer. Maybe they use better products. Maybe they use different e-file bits to make sure that they don't damage your nails. I see so many situations online where people have been cut by the file because they're going too quick. They're burning their nails because they're going too quick. They're digging the drill into their nails because they want to be faster. They're reusing the same tools, or they're working on clients with like fungal nails and contaminating the products. So many factors that risk disease transmission, infection, just a general lack of care. They don't care about your health. They don't care about anything like that. So back to value, there's a big difference just based on how they care about you. And God forbid someone was diabetic. I saw it online, can't confirm it was true, but I saw something about some diabetic person. They got a cut during a pedicure, I'm pretty sure it was, and they actually had something amputated. Like that's how extreme it can get. Like you may think, oh, just like a little cut, it's fine, whatever. A cut at any salon is bad enough, right? A cut at any salon, whether it's hygienic, not hygienic, bad enough, right? It is a wound at the end of the day. But a cut at a salon where the tools aren't clean, the products aren't clean, the foot spa, not clean, that is a huge infection risk. Now, I could go on and on about the reasons why there is a big difference between non-standard, lower quality technicians and higher quality technicians, but we'd be here forever. And I'm sure you're already sick of me by now, so let's move on. There's obviously a big difference between your non-standard salons and a high quality technician, but we can still compare 2 different home-based technicians. Doesn't matter if they both work at home, doesn't matter if they're both a sole trader, they don't have any staff, whatever reason, there can be so many factors that contribute to why one might have $80 pricing and why one might have $150 pricing. And I wanted to mention this because a lot of people assume that every home salon or every independent nail technician is automatically higher quality, but I have definitely seen a lot of damage come from home salons as well. But within that whole private nail tech sector, pricing can still vary a whole lot. So that is why you should never be comparing your pricing to another nail techs. Even if you're not comparing it to a non-standard salon, you know you're better than that. You're still comparing it to another home-based or private nail technician. There could still be so many other factors. That is why your pricing might be higher or lower than theirs. What's profitable for them may not even be livable for you. So let's compare two home-based, private, independent nail techs, right? So hygiene-wise, again, we can come back to some would just clean and disinfect, some would clean, disinfect, sterilize. Even some home salons reuse the files. Maybe they spray it with alcohol or soak them in God knows what, but there's still a big difference between reusing a nail file that you've just sprayed with alcohol that still has dust and skin or whatever on it compared to using a new file. Big difference, not only in the hygiene perspective, if we go to quality, value, but also the expenses, the cost of the file. And back to the autoclave, the person that doesn't have the autoclave, their expenses are significantly lower. Again, an autoclave is at least $3,500, at least. And then you have the annual upkeep, at least $500. So that is a huge expense. So the person with the autoclave has a higher hygiene cost per client. Then we have products. Again, like the pricing doesn't always reflect the quality and things like that. But one nail tech might be using products from a supplier that's more lower price, and one might be using one's more higher price. So their cost of products per client is going to differ. Then we have overheads. Again, going back to what I said earlier, some aren't registered businesses. They don't have to pay for their business name. They're not paying tax. They're not paying GST. They're not paying their annual council fee. They didn't have to get any inspections, or maybe they didn't get any renovations done that is actually required in their area because they're not registered. Like for whatever reason, they have lower overheads. Maybe they're not paying insurance. There's other things like upskilling and like ongoing training. Maybe they're not getting ongoing training every year. That's a cost they don't have to pay for. There's also booking systems, websites, things like that. Back to appointment timing. We have some people that take an hour, some people that take 2 hours. It is going to differ. And a thing that I think is very misunderstood is that people think speed and quality like relate. I personally don't think that speed equals higher or lower quality. It is going to differ because we could say that, people that are really fast are rushing and it's low quality, or we could say that people that are really fast are just more experienced. They've grown their speed with time. And on the other end, you could say that people that take a long time could be inexperienced and that's why they take so long. Or we could say that people that take longer amount of time just have a bit more attention to detail and just prefer to have more time to do things. I don't think speed and quality are even remotely related, but the appointment time does need to be considered when it comes to pricing. So appointment time is not only going to vary based on how fast the technician actually does the set, but also based on how much time they've physically blocked off for that client. Like some technicians are like down to the minute, like the timing is perfect. There's no gap between clients. There's no like time to clean up that's incorporated into that timing. Maybe if they have a client with difficult nails or skin, they're going overtime. And on the other end, you can have technicians that do incorporate that into their pricing. Like for me, I like to have generous timing because you never know what kind of client's going to come in. That is why service time can vary so much. Like I have an hour and 45 minutes that I allocate, but I have some clients that take an hour, some that take an hour and 45 minutes, maybe even more. Some clients have difficult skin. Some people have nails that are extremely damaged and need a little extra care. Some people have hooked nails that need to be corrected or broken nails that need to be repaired. Some clients may be booked in for removal and full set and there's nothing left to remove. Some clients might get a colored builder gel where they don't need a color applied on top, whereas others want a gel polish applied on top. So it's extra time. There's so many factors. So personally, what I recommend is having either different services or a time that's generous enough to consider one or two of those factors. So like for me, I include 2 repairs in my manicures. It's better to be safe than sorry and just allow generous time because you don't want to be running late for your next client and your whole day just runs behind. You also need to consider what if that client's like 5-10 minutes late. And the time that you have available for booking is the time that needs to be considered when you're calculating your pricing. Some people won't calculate this and will just go overtime with clients. Hence the difference in pricing. The last reason why there can be such a drastic difference between 2 private or home-based independent nail technicians that from the outsider perspective seem to deliver the same service can actually be a lack of self-worth and financial knowledge. Some nail techs simply just don't know how to price their services, and that's why I'm having a whole nother episode on this, but they don't know how to price accordingly, hence why they probably undercharge. So they're not undercharging because they can profit off of their low prices. They're undercharging because they don't know any better. They don't actually know how to price themselves. They don't actually know how much they need to charge in order to cover their overheads. They likely work you for a really small wage and don't even know it. Again, circling back, like some just don't need to earn that much money. Some don't really need that livable wage because maybe someone else in their family is taking care of the bills and the mortgage and things like that. There are so many factors like involved within that. Or maybe they're in a position where they don't value their services enough. They don't value themselves enough. There's a lack of self-worth. They don't feel worthy enough to charge a certain amount. Like they might see nail techs that charge $150 for a plain color set of nails and they're like, I could never charge that much. I don't think I'm worth $150. And that leads me into charging your worth. When most people think about charging their worth, they're usually thinking about how much they themselves value their work, what they believe their work is worth. It's usually tied into a lot of self-worth as well. But that doesn't mean that's what you should be charging, because your perception of how much you think your services are worth may not be anywhere near where your services need to be from a numbers standpoint. You might personally think that your sets are worth $70, $80, but then if you look at the numbers, your sets are actually worth $120 or whatever it may be. So realistically, charging your worth should be based on the numbers. It shouldn't be based on how you feel. Because you could have, low self-worth, low self-esteem. Maybe you have a lot of fear and your pricing is just a reflection of that fear. You don't think clients are going to pay more for your services. You're undercharging, you're undervaluing yourself based on your emotions. When in reality, you just need to calculate your pricing. Keep your emotions out of it. Because I know that we can feel so guilty for charging what we need to charge in order to have a sustainable business. Especially because, again, most people are programmed to think that $60 nails is like the norm. Anything above this is expensive. So a lot of people don't feel worthy enough of charging more than $60. Or realistically, in this economy, more than double that. And when we let our emotions get in the way of how we run our business, that's when our business does not become financially sustainable. Now, I know what you may be thinking. You need to increase your prices, whether it's because you're not covering your overheads, maybe you're not having any sort of profit, maybe you're giving yourself just minimum wage or not even. Maybe you have to rely on 100% capacity of bookings, which realistically is not the case because we have gaps between appointments, people cancel, people reschedule. You feel like you have to have 100% full books every single time. For whatever reason, you need to increase your prices and you're scared. You're worried that clients are going to leave. You're worried that people are going to call you expensive or a ripoff. And I could just sit here and tell you, don't be scared and just end the episode here. But I'm going to actually give you the truth. Your fears are holding you back. Your personal emotions, your personal fears are affecting your business. And that is what's holding you back from success. You want a successful business doing nails. You want to be able to do nails for a living and profit and live whatever life you want to live, but you don't have a career. You have a hobby where you barely make back what you put in. And I always say a business is an investment. Of course, you have to put in money into your business, but it has to come back at some point. At what point are you going to enjoy what your business has done for you? At what point are you going to enjoy all the hard work that you put in? What's the point in an investment if you don't get any return? Now, I'll be honest with you, you could lose some clients, and that doesn't mean that you're not worth the prices that you're charging. That just means that their values don't align with your business pricing. And that doesn't mean that your pricing is wrong. It just means it's wrong for them. They're not the client for you. And I always think that when clients leave, you're losing clients that don't value your work, but you have availability, you have room to allow clients back in that do value your work. They're literally leaving and creating space for clients that do value you, clients that do align with your business. When clients leave, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not worth the prices that you offer in general, based on your overheads, based on the service you provide. It's just maybe not something that they value so highly. Some people, it might not even be personal. Some people just don't value nails very high. So when you increase your prices, it's not because it's like they don't value your services in particular. It may just be nails as a whole. Again, some people see the value in expensive handbags and clothes and things like that. Some see the value in beauty services. Everyone's so different. And within beauty as a whole, some people see the value in lashes and some nails. Some like a very, very different. Back to fashion. Some people are wearing Kmart clothes with their Louis Vuitton handbag. Everyone values everything so differently. So just because they don't value your prices doesn't mean that they're not accurate, doesn't mean that they're not correct, or you're not worthy of them. No client is going to stay with you forever. It's just the hard truth. I know that we can kind of get a little bit attached to them, like we kind of form sort of friendship kind of things. But realistically, I think just in general, not even just clients, like I don't think anyone is in your life forever, and that's fine. And at the end of the day, this is like, we're talking about business. It is a business. You have to run it as a business, and people are going to leave, and it's fine. It doesn't matter. It can be emotional, but it's not that deep. doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that what you offer and their values do not align. And again, as I mentioned, it may not be your nails in particular that they undervalue. It may be nails as a whole. So I've had clients that maybe my sets weren't in their budget at a certain time, but they came back when it was. So it's not that they didn't value my work. They valued it, but they just weren't able to get it done for a temporary period of time. So when clients leave, that doesn't always mean that they undervalue your work. It just means that maybe it's just not the right time. So no client is going to stay with you forever. It doesn't mean there has to be hard feelings. It doesn't mean it has to be, beef, anything like that. It's just part of life. It's part of growing, part of evolving. But in saying that, you can have clients that stay. They see the value and they can afford to pay that new pricing and they're going to stay. I would have lost some clients when I went from $70 to $80, but I still have clients that were there when I charged $70 and are now there at $115. Some clients are genuinely going to understand, first of all, cost of living. Everything's gone up. The whole world when you first started your business may be completely different to where it is now. So even if your pricing was accurate when you first started your business, that doesn't mean that it can't increase. Like realistically, in this economy where things are at the moment, everything increases like day by day, basically. So even if you watch my other June episode on planning, you calculate all your pricing and it seems to be good, you get your profit, 30%, whatever, you increase your prices. In 6 months' time, you may actually need to increase your prices again because this world, no words, but your pricing isn't going to stay the same forever. You need to stay on top of checking your pricing, checking your numbers, because it can literally change at any time. Even your suppliers, like your gels could have gone up $1 and you just didn't realize. Like you need to keep checking these things because if things are going up around you, your supplies, your overheads, but your prices stay the same, you're going to be earning less and less every day. And especially if you're someone that doesn't have that 30% profit cut out into your pricing, eventually you're probably not even going to have a livable wage. So calculating your pricing isn't a once-off thing. Because if I was charging my $70 sets now in this economy, no chance. I may as well just go do something else. So very likely you'll have to continuously increase your prices. In this economy where we're at right now, who knows, maybe in the future, maybe things could get cheaper. Let's just be positive. But, maybe things could get cheaper and then we can just leave our prices as is for a little bit. But in this economy, everything is going up. Each month, something's like going up, whether it's a few cents, a few dollars, something's always going up. So where the world is right now, it's not just a once-off price increase. You need to be continuously tracking the price of your supplies, the price of your overheads. Are there any changes to your timings? Things like that. And even without the cost of like products and things going up, your pricing should be increasing anyways. Maybe just doesn't need to go up as often because your experience increases and you're probably doing things like ongoing trainings, your education increases, your knowledge increases, your skill increases with practice and time. Those things also contribute to why you will at some point need to increase them again. But those are more like minor increases. Those are maybe like annual, maybe every 2 years, depending on how long you've been in business and things like that. Those are reasons for increasing. But currently in this economy, I would be looking closer to 6 months, maybe a year, because everything is going up. But back to clients, when we do any sort of changes to our business, whether it's increasing the prices, changing our hours, changing the services we offer, we probably will lose clients. And that's fine because we're not losing our ideal client. We're not losing clients that align with our business. We're losing clients that no longer align with our business. I did do a whole episode about working hours and things like that. Like when you change your working hours, you are going to lose clients. Unless they can adapt, it's just what happens. Any changes to your business, there is a chance that you could lose clients. But we can't let this fear of losing clients hold us back from charging our worth. And again, worth based on numbers, not based on feelings. And I can tell you from experience, when you actually charge what you need to be charging based on the numbers, not based on feelings, emotions, how worthy you feel, all of that, I can guarantee that you are going to enjoy your job so much more and you're actually going to provide a better quality service. So speaking from experience, when I was undercharging, when I was making little to no money from my business, I was ready to quit. I was like, bye. Like this is like, I've had so many situations in my career where I was like, I love doing nails, but it's not financially feasible for me to continue because people don't value nails how we need a price in order to cover overheads and things like that. I was like, I'm going to quit because as much as I love nails, I have goals, I have life, I have bills, I have things like that. in this economy, especially to buy a house, even just to pay for petrol, like crazy. Everything's just wild. So I was like, what's the point in doing nails anymore? Like, I can love it, but it's not a career, right? That's what I was thinking. I was like, it's not a career. I love it, but it's a hobby because I'm not earning the money I need to live. And not only like the client hours I was doing, like I wasn't earning much from doing the clients that I was doing because my prices are so low, but any business owner, you know this, no matter what field you're in, especially if you're service-based, you know you have your service times where you're taking clients, your open hours, whatever it is, and you have all the work there, but you also have work when you finish. Unless you're someone that's very strict with work-life balance, we're responding to inquiries after work, we're ordering stock, you know, all these things that we do outside of the salon, or maybe in the salon after our opening hours or our client hours have closed, we're still doing stuff. And again, we need to consider that in our pricing as well, because otherwise we're doing so much work and our income is not matching up. Whereas, you know, you could just go to another job and have set hours per week and earn a set amount per week. You don't have to worry about getting enough clients. You don't have to worry about the pricing because the business is doing the pricing, not you. You're just getting paid. It could be so much more financially sustainable to go work for someone else, right? So I was like, I am going to quit. I've had enough. I experienced a lot of burnout because of the hours I was working to try and earn more money, when in fact it wasn't that I needed to work more hours. I just needed to increase my pricing. I started to literally despise having to go into the salon and do clients. I was like, oh, I'm over this. Like, I'll just go, like, I'll give up on my dream and I'll go work somewhere else. And I almost did that. Like, there was a bunch of times where I was like scrolling, looking at jobs, and I was like, do I just apply for something else? Like, I was just like, I'm so over this. I'm so over working so hard and being so underpaid. So I almost quit. And then I had to like pull myself together and just be like, Monique, if you want to do nails, if you want to have a business that is your career, you want to do nails as a career, you don't want to work for someone else, you don't want to work in any other job role that you have no passion for, you have to treat your business like a business and not just a hobby. So I had to do like a full 360, not all at once, but over the years I've been making gradual changes to my business. I've gradually increased my prices. I've gradually changed my work hours. Again, I did a whole episode on work hours and how I'm shifting away from Saturdays and how I got rid of late nights completely. All of that, whole nother episode, go listen to that. But like making changes to make my business exactly how I want to run it, where I can still have a passion for nails and make working on clients doing nails and beauty and everything like that my career that I can live off of. And like, how much of a blessing is it to have a career that you actually love? That you have a career that you're actually passionate about. Not a lot of people can say that they have that, right? Like for me, beauty was just an interest that I had, a strong interest that I had that I never thought I would have a career in. But then I was able to turn that into my career. But the only reason I was able to do that and continue doing that is because I had to treat my business like a business and not just a hobby. So when I increased my prices gradually over the years, I think I did like maybe $10 at a time, maybe $5. And I still feel like I need to recalculate my pricing, see where I'm at. It might have changed. Again, things like experience and things like that increase the value over time, but also the general cost of living increases. Therefore, your wage has to increase, but also the cost of your supplies, all that increases. So even to this day, I still need to recalculate. I still need to do all of those things and still need to make changes. Like I'm still changing my hours. I still probably have to change my pricing. It's all just treating your business as a business. And when I tell you that when I actually increase my prices and I've done so gradually over time, I become more and more happy to do what I do. And I'm not a money-driven person. Like I wish I could sit here and be like, I am rich off doing nails. Like, ugh, I'm just living my best life. I have someone right here fanning me right now. Like someone's massaging my feet. Like I wish that was the case. But I'm genuinely more happy because I can do what I love for work. Like not many people can say that. How amazing is that? When you enjoy your job more, when you're charging what you need to, you actually provide a good quality service. You actually perform better at work. Because you can imagine if you were like working for someone else's business and you hated your job, but it was a job, you know, you need money. You're probably not going to be as good as that job because you're just like, oh, I'm back again, back at this workplace with my horrible boss, earning like little to no money. You're not going to be performing very well. You're just going to be doing like the bare minimum, right? Versus if you were doing something that you love and your pay was paying you enough that you could live comfortably, then I can guarantee you would be doing a much better job. you'd be more motivated to even go to work. So when you raise your prices, it's less burnout and more income. So if you're someone that's kind of feeling like you don't want to do this anymore, you want to do nails as a career, but like you're not making enough money, you feel like you have to work so many hours, these are all signs that you need to increase your prices. And that's even without looking at the numbers. And again, prices aren't something that you calculate once and then you forget about it. Because even if we didn't consider the price of everything in the world, your experience goes up, your skills increase, all of that, higher value, higher price point. But then again, this economy, supplies are going up, overheads are going up, our general cost of living is going up. So we need to increase our prices to get us through that. Because otherwise, maybe in January, you've priced your pricing so well, you've done your calculations, all of that, it's perfect. But then December could come around and you're not making anywhere near as much money because everything else has gone up. Your expenses have changed. So that is why you need to increase your prices, not just once, but recalculate and reflect. And that doesn't mean you have to increase your prices by $5, $10 every single 6 months. It could be as little as $5 a year. Depending on the business, I don't know about this economy, maybe a bit more than that, but calculate your prices regularly. I would recommend doing it every 6 months just to check. Doesn't mean you have to increase your prices every 6 months, but I would recommend going through the calculations. Very likely, you're going to have to increase your prices every 6 months to a year, because I can guarantee that if you do your calculations 6 months apart, there is going to be some sort of change in this economy based on your overheads and expenses. And if not, you're going to want to increase at least a little bit to consider your experience and all of that, because that increases your value, which in turn increases your price. I want you to right now think about where you were a year ago. What did your business look like? In this past year, what changes have you made to your business? Have you changed the products that you use and maybe they cost more? Have you done some sort of upskill training or further training? Have you maybe invested into a booking system? Maybe you've gotten a website. Or even if none of those things changed, you have 1 year more experience. Or maybe you're someone that's been in the industry for a long time. I can almost guarantee that your pricing back in 2010 is not going to be profitable or even livable in 2026. All nail technicians should be charging based on their numbers, charging appropriately, regardless of whether they've got 2 years in the industry or 10. Yes, your experience levels are going to impact your pricing, but just because you're only a year or two into business, that doesn't mean that you should be charging less than your numbers say. But as you gain experience, as you do clients, as the years go by, you grow more, you improve more. Even when you do upskill trainings, things like that, your business is growing, you're growing, your skills are growing, but your growth increases your value, which increases your worth, which needs to increase your price. Gosh, this was such a huge episode. The amount of times I've lost my voice and I've had to stop and have a coughing fit, crazy. So this was a huge episode. I don't know how long this is going to be once I've edited this down. This is 1 hour and 51 minutes of filming. This is why I do fortnightly episodes, because if I was doing weekly episodes, I've lost a whole day every single week. But maybe in the future, if you guys love the podcast a whole lot, maybe I could do weekly episodes, or maybe a good episode, a fortnight, and a bonus one in between. We'll see how we go. But it just goes to show that I could talk about this forever and ever, and we haven't even touched the surface on how to actually calculate your pricing mathematically. And I'm going to do the best that I can in that other pricing episode I have planned, because of course this is a podcast. It's not a course. I'm not coaching you. I'm just going to give you the best tips that I can. I can't see your business numbers firsthand, so I'm just going to be giving you guys advice onto how you can actually calculate your pricing. So if that is something that you are interested in and you want to learn a little bit more about, stay tuned. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, do that. Follow on Spotify, Apple, all of those things. Turn on the notification bell so you get notified every single time a new episode drops. Normally it's fortnightly. Could be an extra one this month because I am plotting a guest speaker and it fits perfectly with this month. So maybe an extra one this month. I hope you guys found this episode super valuable, and I would love to know if there's anything that you took away from this episode that you're like, damn, this changed my whole perspective. This changed my mindset. Please let me know. You can leave a comment on YouTube. You can leave a comment on Spotify, I think, as well. Leave me a comment. Let me know. I'd love to hear it. But yeah, more on pricing coming very soon. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Blossom in Business. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love if you could give the video a thumbs up on YouTube or rate the podcast 5 stars on Spotify. If you don't want to miss an episode, make sure to hit the notification bell so you get notified every single time a new episode drops. If you want to follow along on my journey, make sure to follow me on socials at Royal Blossom Beauty. And if you have any requests for certain topics or story times or anything else you want covered on the podcast, or you want to apply to be a guest speaker, click the link in my description and you'll be taken to my website with all the information. And I'll see you in the next episode.